Wondermous. Welcome. My name is Merikay. I am the host of the Wondermous Podcast, a healthcare leadership journey. We have met some incredible people the last several weeks as our channel has launched. And today I welcome a colleague and a friend and a fellow member of NSCHBC. That's the National Society of Certified Healthcare Business Consultants. Her name is Debra Lynne Phairas. And Debra, why don't you tell our audience a little bit about you and your background?
Okay, thanks, Merikay. Yes, we have enjoyed working together at National Society of Certified Healthcare Business Consultants, and I've asked Merikay to do some webinars for my organizations out here, El Camino Hospital, et cetera. So anyway, I've had my business. It was 40 years, May 1st. I started it in 1985, but I have my whole background's in healthcare. And I went to Michigan State for my undergrad. Actually started in pre-med, but didn't finish that. And then I was a pharmaceutical rep for two companies, Parke-Davis and then Merck Sharp and Dohme. And then I became a Planned Parenthood Center Director, which for two different Planned Parenthoods. That's where I really got all my healthcare management experience. Mm-hmm. And then I was recruited to NorCal Mutual, which is a medical malpractice insurance company, because of my practice and risk management background. And that was a wonderful experience. And then in 1985 is when I started my business to do practice management and risk management. So that's what I've been doing ever since then.
Wow. It's interesting. I didn't know we had that in common, that you were kind of pre-med and I was pre-dental. And,
yes.
Isn't it interesting how life just sort of provides that detour so that some doors close and then other doors get to be opened?
So true.
So what do you enjoy most about your leadership healthcare journey? What do you think are some of those dramatic touchdowns or dramatic plays that have really defined you in your career?
Well, I think the pharmaceutical experience was good because I got some sales background, which I always teach. Sales is actually good for healthcare management because you're having to sell change and, explain the benefits and all that. And that's sales, basically. And then, becoming a healthcare administrator was amazing. And I learned so much about that. I had a large staff at a pretty young age. And so I had to develop my healthcare management and leadership skills pretty quickly. So that was fun. And then I think the most important thing is getting involved in your organizations. So I went back to get my MBA in Health Services Administration. So that provides a lot of educational background. Sure. But I got involved very early on with all of our healthcare organizations. So Medical Group Management Association, and I've been a member, I've been on the board, I've been president. And then I was president of the Society of Professionals in Healthcare, which was a large organization here in the Bay Area of about 500 healthcare leaders, accountants, very similar, and lawyers like our society. Sure. And then I've just been involved. Now I'm on the board of Physician Association of California, which is a new organization designed for solo and small practices. And we have about 15,000 members now in California. And it's like my giving back. And so we're doing a lot of work with the legislators on how to change things with healthcare, including I'm very proud of, we've got a bill that's, I hope it's going to be signed by Governor Newsom about improving the credentialing process for
good.
Yeah, streamlining it, making it, they have to provisionally credential in 90 days. And, use one form that's on the CAQH. So we're hopeful that governor's going to sign it very shortly, I hope.
Well, and it's interesting when you talked about, being in sales, right? And selling change. And that comes with ideas and passion. And you can just sense your enthusiasm, your dedication, and your passion for what you do. And what do you think has been one of the biggest challenges that you have faced in your leadership healthcare journey?
Well, I think speaking, learning how to professionally speak, because that's when I really started doing that at NorCal Mutual. And they kind of just threw me in, and I became the informed consent expert. And but all risk management. But I remember the first time that I had to speak in front of 300 doctors in 1983 on the concept of informed consent. I almost got sick. I never
Oh,
did.
Deborah.
I'm going to be very honest about that. I was so afraid, but then
Oh,
I just went into the bathroom and I just looked at myself in the mirror and it said, "You can do this. You can do
yes.
this. You know what you're talking about. And this is going to help patients and physicians." And so, and then I just kept doing it and doing it. So I just forced myself to do public speaking. And now it's my favorite thing to do.
Oh, I love that. Well, and when we are passionate, on fire, and we,
Hmm.
we truly care about the message, that's part of that is us getting out of our own way, right?
Hmm.
Just getting out of that mindset of, fear and
Hmm.
just leaning in. So I'm glad that you embrace that. You've actually maybe inspired me to reignite my presenting with influence course that I've
Yes.
taught several times over the years. So, as you look at kind of your role now, share with our audience some of the things that you focus on as a consultant.
Well, I do so many things. I kind of jokingly say I'm the family practice of consultants because I do everything from what they say in family practice, cradle to grave. So
Right.
help doctors start up their practices from
Yeah.
scratch and then improve them on the way. And that includes working with the healthcare managers, administrators, CEOs, the doctors, teaching them about how to be a better manager of people, and then a lot of
Hmm.
financial analysis. I do a lot of benchmarking and financial analysis and operations improvements. And then I help doctors bring in new associates for buy-ins, buyouts, and help doctors close their practice. So I do everything in between. And as I always kind of jokingly say, I'm a mama bear protecting my cubs. And
Oh,
I feel very passionate about helping doctors with the business side of their practice and managers too. I mean,
sure,
and I
sure.
try to improve their skills. And I have a lot of courses on managing up and becoming a better manager of people. And that's for doctors and managers.
Gotcha. So, when you're traveling and speaking, what are some of your favorite topics to speak on?
Oh, it's just changed throughout the years now.
Right.
I mean, my very first course was what medical school didn't teach you about the business side of your practice. And that sort of
Hmm.
morphed into in quotes, MBA in a day for MDs and managers. And
Sure.
then I have so many, I have about 35, 40 seminars that I've developed. But
Right.
recently, the most popular ones have been government healthcare policy changes, how that affects MDs and managers.
Sure.
And I still do a lot. I'm teaching a webinar today after this called "Cutting Costs Without Cutting Corners." And
Nice. Oh, I like that title.
yeah, yeah. And I still do my managing up. I still let's see, I'm speaking at the Ophthalmology Academy in October, and that's going to be on how to manage your online presence and how to mitigate negative reviews, and also my interpersonal, very similar to what you do,
Mhm.
interpersonal skills, verbal, written, those types of things. I'm trying to think what are
Sure.
my other ones. Making decisions about whether or not you're going to go with a private equity company
Mhm.
or, one of those types of things. And then just, oh, and I also, I forgot to mention that I do recruit healthcare managers too,
Gotcha. Okay.
managers and above, not the rest of the
Sure.
staff. But, I talk a lot about that and how to do it effectively. And, I don't know. That's just a few of them. You can go on my website and see
That's
them.
awesome. So, who are some people that have made a major impact and influence on you in your career?
Well, I can think of a couple. First of all, um, someone taking a chance on me to be in pharmaceutical sales. So my first
Mhm.
district manager and regional manager, because actually when I started, this was 1976, they did not hire females in that job.
Wow.
But then they had to, and so it
Mhm.
from affirmative action. But I had a science pre-med background, so
Wow.
like I had all the qualifications. So that just spurred me to say, to my manager, I'm going to show you that I'm going to be a very good salesperson. And I was,
Mhm.
after that first year, believe it or not, I was the number one in sales increase and sales. So he was and he took a chance on me. And, so I said, I'm gonna show you, I'm gonna make you proud, basically.
Aw.
And then my second one was Heather Estes, who was the executive director of the Planned Parenthood system that I went to work for. And she
Mhm.
was a tough boss,
Mm.
very tough, but very smart and
Mhm.
she pushed us, all of our, our clinic center directors. And
Sure.
I learned so much from her. I really did, about finance and managing people and everything. And, I'm very proud to say that all of the center directors, one of them went on to be a CEO of a hospital. And
Wow.
it just, they all did very well, because Planned Parenthood is a very well run organization.
Wow.
And that's where I learned all my risk management as well as my practice management. And then let me see, I would say Leaf Beck. Do you remember Leaf Beck from our
That name's
CCN?
yeah, that name sounds very
Yes.
familiar.
Yes, he was a healthcare attorney that's with the healthcare group.
Okay.
And he inspired me to write my newsletter, which was loss prevention letter. And
Nice.
he was just a wonderful, wonderful guy. I mean, just so great. And geez, there's just been, I think I learned from all my doctors. I learned from my
Mhm.
managers. You never stop learning. And one of the things that I remember, oh, I know, it was one of my radiation oncologists. He said, I
Mm,
believe in the Einstein theory, that you are never too good to not talk to the janitor or the,
yes,
CEO, and you can learn from everyone. And he
absolutely.
was such a great
Absolutely.
guy, and I love that. So I always try to explain that to my doctors, is that you need to trust your staff, listen to your
Mhm.
receptionist, and encourage them to give you good ideas. And you're not so far above them that you can't learn from other people. So it's a
Absolutely.
really good one too. So
I
that's
love that. That made me think about the time when I was director of patient and family experience at the
mhm,
hospital. I made a personal commitment to go down to the cafeteria twice every week to have lunch and sit with people that I didn't know. And even though
yeah.
I'm extroverted, that was a little bit of a comfort stretch for me.
Mhm,
But because I met people in, food services, because I met people that were in linens, because I met people
mhm.
in the emergency department, every department, there was an instant where somebody showed up at the emergency department. They didn't have an extra set of clothes available in the clothes closet. So I ran down and I asked people in the linen, I said, "Hey, can you give me an old pair of scrubs so I can give it to this woman?" And here's the thing, it's about relationships. And
Mhm.
that's one of the things I admire about you, Deborah. Your passion, your people skills, if you will. We call them human relations. But when you think of human relations of providers and their teams, what would you say you're seeing works well, and what are you seeing that people really struggle with that are some of their roadblocks?
Well, I try to use humor in working with my physicians, and I'm not intimidated by anyone. So, I've worked with some of the top doctors in the world, as well as, everyone. And like I said, the receptionists and the billers.
Sure.
So I don't know, is that I think that what I try to teach doctors is that they have terrible learning about being a good manager and a leader in medical
Mhm.
school, because they're humiliated in front of their peers and their patients and their attendings. And so I always say, the watchword is praise in public, reprimand in private. And
Yes.
you should always do those kinds of things. And so I try to, and then I always say the other thing that doctors do is that they let the staff go around the manager and get to
Yes.
them. And so I try to relate back into, things that they want. So I say, two of the organizations that have survived forever is the Catholic Church and the military.
Right.
Part of that is,
Great examples.
I know. So, and I said, some of them have been in the military, so they understand. I said, so it's the same concept. The parish priest doesn't go right to the Pope, nor does the private go right to the general. It's the
Right.
chain of command. And that you have to say to that staff member, did you talk to your manager about this? Like when they want vacation and they want to get it from
Sure.
the doctor. And you have to have the courage to say that and say, no, you have to go back to your manager, because that
Mhm.
is good discipline and creates good organizational culture, when
Mhm.
you have to go to your supervisor first for everything. So I try to use like little things like that to try to educate them, and they start laughing, but then it
Sure.
listens. And I'll tell you one other thing. I learned this from a podcast that I was listening to, and it was a coach that was talking about this. And he said, you have two ears and one mouth, and they should be used in that proportion. And did it freeze, Mary Kay? I think it froze there.
Yes. May have. That's
Okay.
okay. We'll roll on.
All right. So, but it was actually, that was a quote from a Greek philosopher that said virtually the same thing, but I changed it into two ears and one mouth. And they
Sure.
should be using that proportion because I find that especially when doctors are recruiting managers, unless I can tell them about this first, they talk about themselves instead of
Mhm.
asking questions and listening.
Right.
So one of my dermatologists, he always remembers that. And he goes, "Yes, Deb, two ears, one mouth. I won't forget
Right.
that ever." So I try to use short little phrases that are going to make them remember good management and leadership principles.
Is there something that you want to accomplish that you haven't that's somewhat on your bucket list professionally?
Well, yes, I want to write a book in my retirement, and I actually already have a title and I've copyrighted it, and it's going to be The Good,
Nice.
the Bad, and the Ugly in Physician Practices or something like that, because I want to talk about all the positive things and then
Mhm.
all the bad things that have happened and the truly ugly things where, you will learn from that. So I have learned from all of those experiences and
Sure.
I bring that to my consulting. I think I'm a much better consultant today than I was when I started out, simply from the basis of everything that I have gone through with my physicians and managers.
What's been a big learning lesson for you in your career where you're like, oh, maybe it didn't go well, or maybe, an engagement canceled, or what's been a big learning lesson?
Well, I'm going to start with when I was a healthcare administrator at Planned Parenthood,
Mhm.
and I had I think I can't remember if she was a nurse practitioner or a physician assistant, but she did not respect me as her boss because I was
Mhm.
not a clinical person. And
Right.
I had full responsibility for, it was a little different at Planned Parenthood. I was the boss of the doctors that worked there and the nurse
Sure.
practitioners and the PAs. And, that was really difficult for me. But finally, I had to go through the, disciplinary process and just say, I am your boss and I want to work with you and I will help you. Respect my authority when it comes to certain things. I'm not going to talk about your clinical things, but in terms of, you coming into work on time and the way that
Sure.
you treat the staff and all that. Yes, I am your boss for that. But it was frightening at first, but she just would not. I went through the process and
Mhm.
I was afraid to fire her, and then I had to because she was
Right.
not doing the right things. But what I learned from that is that, people fire themselves because I gave her
Yes.
opportunity to change and to work with me, and it was her choice to be fired. So I have
Mhm.
used that, for my managers all the time to give them permission to discipline and fire people.
Mhm.
So, I think that's one of the biggest things. And gosh, I can't think of anything else right now.
Well, and I'm a huge fan of giving somebody an
Mhm.
opportunity to change.
Exactly.
Providing that roadmap, even if it's a performance
Mhm.
improvement plan, if it has to get to that stage. But then if they're not willing to be coached, or if they're
Mhm.
not willing to change, or if they're
Mhm.
not willing to compromise, then let's just let them bloom somewhere else.
Right.
And hopefully, my hope is that that will be a defining moment or an aha moment for them
Mhm.
to do some self evaluation, ask, what can I do? Because oftentimes, what I've seen, and you may have seen this too, Deborah, is the pattern repeats.
Yes.
I saw this a lot in dentistry when I started my career as a dental consultant. And, interestingly, we would call the other provider and say, hey, Sarah Smith worked for you, and on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10
Mhm.
being outstanding, what would you score, and how do you, what's some feedback for that? And oftentimes the providers, they would be very genuine,
Mhm.
and because when you look at dentistry or when you look in medicine, it's a tight knit community,
Mhm.
and some of these people that weren't honest and didn't really tell, it turned out to be nightmares in the practice. So I share that because my hope is let's all make, an effort for positive and purposeful change. And if somebody's on the team and they're not in alignment, let's let them move on down the line.
That's right.
So when you think of your younger self, and this is my final question for you, Deborah, if you were going to give your younger self some words of wisdom or encouragement, what would you say?
Well, I think that mostly I would say, try new things. don't be afraid to move in a different direction, because it can all be good in the end. And then I would say get involved with all your professional organizations and step up to leadership roles. I have
Mhm.
done that. I've been, like I said, very involved with Medical Group Management Association, Society of Professionals in Healthcare, our organization. I'm on the foundation board for our organization. And now I'm on the board of this Physician Association in California. And I think you just have to get out there. And I remember when I first started my business, I would be tired and everything, but then I would just push myself to go out and
Mhm.
network and go out to these meetings or get involved with the medical societies or whatever it might be. And every time I did, even though I was tired, it always resulted in a good opportunity for me. So I
Nice.
always tell all my younger people, just get involved with everything and push
Mhm.
yourself to get out there and get involved with organizations because it will always benefit you. It really will.
Absolutely. Build relationships to
Mhm.
build business. And you're the first guest that I have shared this with. So this is actually my book that has relaunched on Amazon. It's called My Year on the Inside, Creating
Go.
Catalysts for Change. And it's stories of when I worked inside a hospital as director of patient and family experience. And Deborah, we had a meeting down in Florida, one of our midwinter meetings. And I told this story earlier to a CEO of a hospital this morning. I was hesitant to share my book with people because I really exposed a lot of the dark side of leadership inside of our organization. And we had a panel of attorneys at this meeting, and I raised my hand and I said, "Okay, what would happen if you wrote a book about your experience working inside a hospital, but you're afraid some people might come after you?" And this is what the attorney said. He said, "Is it true?" And I said, "Every word." And they said, "Go for it." So here's why I got goosebumps when I shared that with you. But here's why I wanted to tell you that. You know what? Write your book,
Oh,
Deborah.
thank you.
It could be a
I'll be talking
catalyst for
to you.
positive, purposeful change for people, and it could be part of your legacy. So I want to encourage you to do that and make it happen. I want to thank you also for being our guest today. If you want to learn more about Deborah, how can they get in touch with you?
My website is practiceconsultants.net and make sure it's .net. So that's probably the easiest way. And my email is dphairas, which is PHAIRAS @practiceconsultants.net.
And we will put Deborah's contact information. I'm on the East Coast, she's on the West Coast, and we've got a little bit of a delay that may show up in our recording. If you want to reach out to me, my website is coachmkay.com. That's coachmkay.com. I want to wish each of you blessings, many joy, many peace, and remember to make every day count.
Thank you, Mary Kay. Always a pleasure.